All right, buckle up everyone because we're diving headfirst into the whirlwind world of F1 today, and let me tell you, things are getting spicy over at Red Bull.
Spicy is an understatement. I
Yeah,
mean, driver changes just 2 races into the season. It's practically unheard of, especially for a top team.
exactly. You sent in a ton of articles about these Red Bull driver shuffles, and yeah, we got to unpack this. What's really going on? What's behind it all? And where does this leave everyone involved?
It's like a game of musical chairs, but with millions of dollars and championship hopes on the line.
No kidding. We're talking about Yuki Tsunoda moving up from AlphaTauri, or should I say Racing Bulls now, to partner with Max Verstappen at Red Bull Racing. And of course, that means Lawson is heading back to Racing Bulls.
Yeah, and all this happening just before Tsunoda's home race in Japan. Come on, you can't tell me that's just a coincidence.
Oh, we'll definitely be digging into that. But first, let's rewind to that official announcement. It dropped on March 27th, 2025, confirming Lawson's out after just Australia and China and Tsunoda's in, starting at Suzuka.
The timing is definitely suspect.
Totally. Now, Red Bull, specifically Christian Horner, is calling this a purely sporting decision, aimed at defending their titles, both drivers and constructors. But he's also saying it's about protecting and developing Liam, giving him more experience in a familiar setting at Racing Bulls.
Okay, sure.
Horner even mentioned the RB21 needing a lot of development, and that Tsunoda's experience would be valuable. So, on the surface, it's all about strategy and supporting Lawson.
Yeah. But then you've got Helmut Marko basically saying the exact opposite. In an interview, he straight up called promoting Lawson a mistake, saying his performance just wasn't enough. He specifically mentioned that turbo failure Lawson had in FP3 in Australia, costing him crucial track time. And, get this, he compared Lawson to a boxer who has been knocked down. Not exactly a vote of confidence.
Ouch. That's harsh, even for Marco. And remember, they initially went with Lawson because of Tsunoda's inconsistency, but according to Marco, Lawson just didn't deliver under pressure. It almost sounds like they're questioning his mental toughness.
Totally. It makes you wonder what Red Bull really prioritizes, a driver's development or winning at all costs, especially with Marko emphasizing the need for a solid #2 driver to back Verstappen up in their championship fight.
All right, so let's see if the actual results back up these strong opinions. Lawson's first 2 races in the RB21, not great. Qualified 18th in Australia while Verstappen was up in 3rd. Then he retired from the race where Verstappen finished 2nd.
Not the start you want.
Nope. And China wasn't much better. 20th in both sprint and main qualifying, 14th in the sprint race, and 12th in the main race. Although, to be fair, he did get a little bump up from those exclusions.
Okay, so not exactly setting the world on fire.
Right. Now, how about Tsunoda at Racing Bulls? He didn't score points in the main races either, but he grabbed a very respectable 6th in the sprint race in China. Plus, reports say he was consistently quicker in practice and qualifying compared to Lawson in the RB21. Oh, and let's not forget, Tsunoda actually scored a point at Suzuka last year.
Interesting. A decent finish in that sprint race in China definitely shows Tsunoda can extract pace when it matters, and getting a point at Suzuka last year, that has to give Red Bull some confidence for his home race this year.
Absolutely. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, the RB21 itself. Both Horner and Marco admit it's a beast to handle. Marco even called it indomitable, basically set up just for Verstappen. He also pointed out that the Racing Bulls car, while easier to drive and fast over a single lap, just can't match the RB21's race pace. Even Lawson apparently found the Racing Bulls car less of a handful.
This is huge. It's almost like Red Bull built a car specifically for one very specific driver, and everyone else is just trying to fit in. And that has to play a huge role in how these drivers perform.
And there's another piece to this puzzle, Honda. Apparently, they were very much involved in the decision to swap Lawson for Tsunoda.
I mean, you gotta think, a Japanese driver in a top Red Bull seat, especially for their home race, it's a marketing dream for Honda. There's definitely more to this than just lap times.
Absolutely. And that's before we even get to the whole Red Bull driver graveyard thing. The articles you sent all basically say this is just the latest chapter in Red Bull's history of, shall we say, impatience with their second drivers. They've earned a reputation for making these super quick, no-nonsense changes if someone isn't performing right alongside Verstappen.
Yeah, driver graveyard is a pretty accurate term, sadly. Since Red Bull joined F1 in 2005, we've seen so many talented drivers struggle in that second seat.
It's almost a curse. Mark Webber, despite some good results, always felt like he was fighting the team as well as the other drivers. Yeah. Daniel Kvyat gone after one mistake. Pierre Gasly lasted, just 12 races. Alex Albon in and out pretty quickly. And even Sergio Perez, who had a good run, eventually lost his seat to Lawson, who now finds himself in the same boat.
And overseeing all of this is Helmut Marko. He's known for setting ridiculously high standards, and if you don't meet them, well, you're out.
But it's not just about Marko. We can't ignore the Verstappen factor. The articles highlight how Red Bull often develops the car around his unique driving style. So not only are you competing with the other teams, you're also trying to adapt to a car built for someone else.
It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Exactly. Even Alex Albon said back in 2023 that the Red Bull is set up in a unique way just for Verstappen, who he called maybe the best of all time, with a driving style many others can't reach.
So yeah, not exactly a level playing field for whoever's in that second car.
And for those who don't make it at Red Bull, well, the impact on their careers can be brutal. While some, like Carlos Sainz and Pierre Gasly, have found success elsewhere, for many, it's been a struggle to get back on track. It's a high-stakes game for sure.
No doubt. It makes you wonder, is the Red Bull driver program a blessing or a curse? You get amazing opportunities, but the pressure is immense, and the consequences of not performing are huge.
So let's talk about the two guys at the center of all this. TSUNODA is saying he's ready for the challenge and sees it as a massive opportunity, especially with his home race coming up. You gotta imagine the pressure is on.
It's a make-or-break moment for him, for sure, but if he can handle the pressure and deliver, this could be a defining moment in his career.
Even Marko seems optimistic, saying TSUNODA's made a giant leap and calling him a more improved YUKI, faster, fewer mistakes, and consistently reaching Q3 in a midfield car.
That's huge praise from Marko. It seems like TSUNODA's really stepped up his game, showing the consistency that Red Bull needs alongside Verstappen.
Now for Lawson, this has got to be a blow. Getting dropped after just 2 races, no matter what Horner says about protecting him, can't be easy. He's back at Racing Bulls, where he had those decent 9th-place finishes last year, but his future in F1, even with Red Bull's junior team, is uncertain.
It's a tough break for Lawson, especially after showing so much promise. This move back to Racing Bulls is a real test of his resilience. He needs to bounce back and prove he belongs in F1.
So to wrap this up, what we're seeing here is Red Bull doing what they do best. Prioritizing performance above all else. They're laser-focused on winning, and they're not afraid to make tough decisions to achieve that.
Exactly. And this whole situation really brings to light the incredibly cutthroat nature of F1. The pressure is immense, the expectations are sky high, and for a driver in that second Red Bull seat, the margin for error is almost non-existent.
What I find fascinating is the contrast between Red Bull's carefully crafted public statements and the more blunt, sometimes brutal honesty from someone like Marko. It raises questions about how they balance nurturing young talent with that ruthless pursuit of victory.
It's a constant tension, for sure, and ultimately it seems like winning takes precedence at Red Bull no matter the cost. It really makes you think about what it takes to not just survive, but thrive in that environment.
This driver swap is a prime example of how quickly things can change in F1. It also raises some really interesting questions. What does it take to succeed as Verstappen's teammate? Is it just about raw speed? Or do you need a certain mental toughness, a particular driving style, maybe even a bit of luck? It'd be fascinating to see how this all plays out over the rest of the season.